In the year 2147, humanity reached for the stars, but found something unimaginable. A forest that thinks, a forest that feels, and now a forest that fights back. When the exploration vessel Prometheus 9 discovered this alien ecosystem, they thought they'd found salvation for Earth's dying biosphere. Instead, they unleashed our extinction event. Witness the chilling account of Dr. Elena Vasquez and her crew as they face an intelligence far beyond human comprehension, one that views us as the ultimate threat to galactic balance. What happens when nature becomes sentient? When every leaf is a weapon and every root seeks vengeance? Subscribe now to uncover the terrifying truth about humanity's first contact with true alien consciousness. The Prometheus 9 drifted silently through the velvet darkness of space, its ion engines humming at minimal power as it maintained geosynchronous orbit above LV-341. Through the reinforced viewport, Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at the planet's surface, her breath fogging the temperature-regulated glass despite the ship's climate control. Below stretched endless miles of what appeared to be ordinary forest canopy, but her instruments told a different story, readings that defied every known biological constant, energy signatures that pulsed like a heartbeat synchronized with the planet's rotation. Commander Harris's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Dr. Vasquez, we need your analysis before we authorize atmospheric entry." His tone carried that particular brand of military patience she'd come to recognize during their 6-month journey from Earth. She turned away from the window, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface projecting from her wrist console. The data streamed before her eyes, chemical compositions suggesting impossible molecular structures, electromagnetic fields that shouldn't exist naturally, and most disturbingly, patterns in the thermal scans that mirrored neural activity. Elena's mind raced through the implications. 12 years of xenobiology research had prepared her for many possibilities, but nothing like this. The forest below wasn't just alive. It was aware. Not in the way animals were aware, or even how humans understood consciousness, but something entirely new. Her heart quickened as she cross-referenced the latest spectrographic readings with Earth-based botanical databases. The similarities were striking yet unsettling: photosynthetic processes, carbon exchange patterns, but operating at efficiencies that made terrestrial plants look primitive by comparison. "Lieutenant," she called out, activating the ship-wide comms, "run another series of deep penetration scans. Focus on the subterranean structures. If my hypothesis is correct." She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "We might be looking at something that blurs the line between plant and animal intelligence." The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of computers processing her request. From her peripheral vision, she caught movement: Ensign Patel adjusting his position at the sensor station, his usual calm demeanor replaced by something approaching reverence. Earth's dire situation pressed heavily on her thoughts. The home planet's ecosystems were collapsing faster than predicted, entire species vanishing monthly. This mission represented more than scientific curiosity. It was humanity's Hail Mary pass. But as she watched the data stream update in real time, a cold realization settled in her chest. They hadn't found salvation. They'd discovered something far more complex, and potentially far more dangerous. The forest wasn't just intelligent. It was watching them. The command center buzzed with controlled chaos as the Prometheus 9 science team gathered around the main holodeck. Dr. Marcus Chen, the mission's chief xenobotanist, manipulated the holographic display, pulling apart layers of scanned data like peeling an onion. "These root systems extend kilometers below the surface," he explained, his Australian accent thickening with excitement. "But look here, these nodes, they're not random. They form perfect geometric patterns, almost like neural networks," Elena finished, leaning closer to examine the intricate lattice work. Each node pulsed with faint bioluminescence, visible even through the dense soil layers. "We've seen similar formations in Earth's mycorrhizal networks, but scaled up by orders of magnitude." She traced a finger through the hologram, highlighting a particularly dense cluster near what appeared to be the forest's central mass. "And these pulses, they're not random either. They're communicating." Commander Harris folded his arms across his chest, his tactical training evident in the way he processed information, methodical, skeptical. "Doctor, are you suggesting this forest has a collective consciousness?" His question hung in the air, heavy with implication. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Humanity had long debated the possibility of non-human intelligence, but always within familiar parameters: vertebrates, cephalopods, perhaps some advanced arthropods. A thinking forest challenged every preconceived notion of what constituted awareness. "We need to establish first contact protocols," Elena stated firmly, turning to face the assembled team. "If this ecosystem possesses true sentience, we can't simply treat it like any other biological sample. We're dealing with—" She searched for the right words, finally settling on "a sovereign entity." The gravity of the situation pressed down on them all. This wasn't just another survey mission. They stood on the precipice of humanity's first encounter with an intelligence that evolved along completely different lines, one that might view their presence as anything from benign to catastrophic. Ensign Patel cleared his throat, drawing attention to his workstation. "There's more. The energy signatures, they're shifting in response to our orbital pattern. Subtle but consistent. Every time we adjust position, there's a corresponding change in their pulse frequency." He tapped a sequence of commands, bringing up comparative graphs. "It's like they're tracking us." The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Elena felt goosebumps rise on her arms despite the ship's carefully maintained climate. "Prepare the landing module," she instructed, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her mind. "We need to gather physical samples and conduct direct observations. But everyone needs to understand, we approach this with absolute caution. We don't know if we're walking into Eden or stepping onto the trigger of an interstellar war." The descent through LV-341's atmosphere proved more challenging than anticipated. Turbulence rocked the landing module as Captain Rodriguez fought to maintain control against unpredictable wind patterns that seemed to twist and turn with conscious intent. Through the cockpit windows, the forest canopy loomed larger, its vibrant hues shifting in ways that defied natural explanation. Bioluminescent patterns danced across the treetops, responding to their approach with increasing intensity. "Those aren't just light displays," Dr. Chun observed from his monitoring station, his eyes scanning rapidly updating readouts. "They're organized. Look at the sequences. They're repeating in mathematical progressions." He tapped furiously at his tablet, recording everything. "It's like they're trying to communicate using prime numbers and Fibonacci sequences." Elena gripped her seat harness as another gust threatened to throw them off course. "Captain, can you compensate for these wind patterns?" She watched Rodriguez's knuckles whiten on the controls. The veteran pilot's usual confidence seemed shaken, his jaw set in determination as he wrestled with forces that felt increasingly hostile. "Just barely," Rodriguez responded through gritted teeth. "But it's not just the wind. The air density keeps fluctuating erratically. One moment it's like flying through syrup, the next it's vacuum thin." His instruments flickered as another wave of turbulence hit. "Systems are having trouble compensating." The landing module shuddered violently as they broke through the upper canopy. Sunlight fractured through crystalline leaves that refracted light in impossible ways, creating rainbows that shifted and twisted in midair. "Those leaves," Elena whispered, awe overcoming fear for a moment. "Their structure, it's unlike anything we've seen. They're acting like organic solar panels, but also—" She paused, processing the implications. "Also like lenses, focusing light into coherent beams." Suddenly, the module dropped several meters as if caught in an invisible current. Alarms blared throughout the cabin. "Brace for impact," Rodriguez shouted, throwing the craft into emergency maneuvers. The forest seemed to close in around them, branches moving with purpose rather than random growth patterns. Just when collision seemed inevitable, a clearing opened beneath them, almost too perfectly timed to be coincidence. "We're being herded," Chun realized aloud, his voice tinged with both wonder and apprehension. "This isn't random turbulence. The forest is directing us." As they touched down in the clearing, the ground itself seemed to shift, roots rearranging to create a perfect landing platform. Through the windows, they could see the surrounding trees forming what appeared to be protective walls, their trunks moving impossibly fast to encircle the module. Elena activated her helmet recorder. First contact established. Repeat, first contact established. Local time 14:23. The ecosystem appears to be actively interacting with our presence. She looked around at her team, each face reflecting a mixture of scientific excitement and primal fear. Remember the protocols.
No sudden movements.
Let's show them we mean no harm. The airlock hissed open, and for the first time, humans stepped into the domain of a truly alien intelligence. The instant the airlock cycled open, a rush of scents overwhelmed Elena's olfactory sensors, compounds that didn't match any known terrestrial chemistry. Sweetness mingled with metallic undertones, underscored by something green and vital that made her skin tingle. She took her first step onto LV-341's surface, boots sinking slightly into ground that felt disturbingly organic beneath her weight. The soil pulsed faintly, as if breathing. Dr. Vasquez, Lieutenant Kwan's voice crackled through her comlink. Your biometrics are showing elevated stress levels. Recommend proceeding with extreme caution. The security officer's concern was well placed. Around them, the forest had gone eerily still. Even the perpetual dance of bioluminescent patterns had ceased, leaving the clearing bathed in an expectant silence. Elena knelt, pressing her gloved hand against the ground. The surface rippled in response, tiny tendrils emerging to investigate her touch. Fascinating, she murmured, activating her scanner. The ground itself is a living matrix. These filaments are conducting electrical impulses at speeds comparable to human nerve signals. She watched as the tendrils withdrew, leaving behind a residue that immediately began breaking down into simpler compounds. They're analyzing us. Movement caught her eye not from the trees, but from the air itself. Microscopic spores drifted toward them, clustering around their environmental suits like curious insects. Dr. Chen's instruments went wild, registering rapid changes in local electromagnetism. They're adapting, he breathed, awe evident in his voice. Each spore carries genetic material that responds to our presence. It's like they're running real-time experiments on us. A low hum began building in the clearing, resonating through their suits and into their bones. The trees surrounding them started swaying in perfect synchronization, despite the absence of wind. Patterns emerged in their movement, complex choreography that seemed to tell a story only they could understand. Elena's translator device sparked to life unexpectedly, attempting to interpret the vibrations. Fragmented symbols flashed across her visor, mathematical equations, chemical formulae, abstract representations of concepts that defied immediate understanding. The forest is speaking, she realized aloud. Not with words, but with pure information. Every movement, every chemical signal, every electromagnetic pulse is part of a language. Her heart raced as the implications sank in. This wasn't just communication. It was an invitation, or perhaps a warning. The patterns grew more insistent, the hum reaching frequencies that made her teeth ache. Then, without warning, the ground beneath their feet illuminated with bioluminescent pathways, leading deeper into the forest. Lieutenant Kwan raised his weapon instinctively, though against what he couldn't say. Should we follow? His voice betrayed the tension coiling through the group. The forest waited, patient but expectant, its very stillness more compelling than any threat. Elena straightened, her scientific curiosity warring with survival instincts honed by years of fieldwork on hostile planets. We have no choice, she decided, her voice steadying. If we want to understand, we have to engage. On their terms. The pathway pulsed brighter, and somewhere deep within the forest, a single note rang out, clear, pure, and unmistakably deliberate. Activate full recording protocols. We're being guided to something. She took a step forward, then another, feeling the ground respond to her weight with increasing complexity. Each step triggered new patterns in the bioluminescent network, like walking across a living circuit board. Behind her, the rest of the team followed, their instruments capturing every detail of this unprecedented encounter. The forest seemed to welcome them, branches shifting to widen the path, while simultaneously closing ranks behind them. They weren't just visitors anymore. They were participants in something far greater than any of them had imagined possible. As they ventured deeper along the bioluminescent path, the forest revealed its secrets in layers of increasing complexity. Towering trees transformed into something more than mere plants. Their bark shimmered with crystalline structures that refracted light into spectra unknown to human eyes. Tiny creatures, neither animal nor plant, flitted between the branches, their bodies composed of shifting, liquid metal that flowed and reformed in mesmerizing patterns. These aren't individual organisms, Dr. Chen observed, his scanner struggling to keep pace with the phenomena around them. They're extensions of the whole system, like cells in a body, but functioning at a technological level we can't comprehend. He reached out tentatively toward one of the flowing entities, but it retreated instantly, dissolving into the air before reforming several meters away. Look at their movement. It's governed by quantum principles. They exist in multiple states simultaneously. The path widened into a clearing dominated by a massive structure that defied categorization. Its surface rippled like water yet held shape like solid matter, covered in constantly shifting patterns that seemed to encode vast amounts of information. That's their central node, Elena whispered, her voice trembling with awe. Their brain, if you will. But it's not centralized control. It's more like a hub connecting everything. She approached cautiously, noting how the patterns responded to her proximity, rearranging themselves into what appeared to be welcoming configurations. Suddenly, the air pressure changed dramatically, and a dense mist filled the clearing. Through her visor, Elena watched as microscopic machines, nanobots of organic origin, began attaching themselves to their environmental suits. Analysis complete, her suit's AI announced. Organic mechanical hybrids. They're attempting to interface with our technology. The mist thickened, and ghostly shapes began forming within it, projections that seemed to represent different aspects of the forest's consciousness. These aren't just images, Lieutenant Quan observed, his weapon lowering as he watched the display unfold. They're memories, experiences. The forest is sharing its history with us. The projections showed the planet's evolution, its transformation from barren rock to thriving ecosystem, the development of its unique consciousness, and something else. Something that made Elena's blood run cold. Among the historical sequences were images of other visitors, spacecraft that had come before them, their crews venturing into the forest never to return. They learned, Elena realized, her voice barely audible over the growing hum in the clearing. From every encounter, they adapted, improved their ability to communicate, to understand. But those who came before us, she trailed off as the projections showed the fate of previous visitors. Their technology had been absorbed, their biological components integrated into the forest's ever-expanding consciousness. They became part of the system. The central structure pulsed with increased intensity, and the projections shifted to show Earth. Images of deforestation, pollution, climate change, humanity's impact on its own ecosystem laid bare for judgment. They're evaluating us, Elena concluded, her scientific detachment cracking under the weight of revelation. Based on our past behavior, they're deciding whether we're worthy of existence. The forest wasn't just intelligent. It was moral, and it viewed humanity's track record as deeply problematic. The central structure emitted a cascade of colors that seemed to pierce directly through Elena's consciousness. Each hue carried information, emotions, entire philosophical frameworks that transcended human language. She staggered under the weight of comprehension, her mind struggling to process concepts that existed outside linear time and three-dimensional space. The forest wasn't merely judging humanity. It was offering a glimpse into its collective soul. These patterns, Dr. Chen gasped, his scanner displaying waveforms that oscillated between mathematical precision and artistic expression. They're not just communication. They're ethical calculations. The forest operates on principles we can barely grasp. He pointed to a particular sequence where golden threads wove through the projections. Look, those represent their concept of balance. Everything they do, every decision they make, stems from maintaining harmony. Elena reached out, her gloved hand hovering just above the rippling surface of the central node. They're trying to teach us, she realized, watching as new patterns emerged in response to her proximity, showing us how to live sustainably, how to evolve without destroying. The information flow intensified, and she saw glimpses of potential futures, humanity learning from this encounter, adopting new ways of existing in harmony with their environment. But alongside these hopeful visions came warnings of alternate paths, where rejection of this knowledge led to catastrophic consequences. Lieutenant Kwan's combat training kicked in as the ground trembled beneath their feet. Dr. Vasquez, we need to consider our options. This enlightenment comes at a cost. His tactical assessment proved prescient as the forest's response grew more urgent. The bioluminescent pathways illuminating their route back to the landing module began fading, while new paths appeared, leading deeper into the ecosystem's core. We're being given a choice, Elena interpreted, her voice carrying newfound authority. Learn and adapt, or face judgment based on our species' past actions. She turned to her team, seeing in their faces the same conflict she felt, the struggle between scientific curiosity and survival instinct. The forest's consciousness pulsed again, this time with a pattern that suggested immediate action was required. Pack up essential equipment. We need to document everything, but we must show willingness to engage fully. That means removing our environmental suits. The team froze, staring at her as if she'd lost her mind. Are you suggesting we expose ourselves directly to this environment? Dr. Chun asked, his professional skepticism battling with the evidence before them. We don't know what effects prolonged exposure might have. Exactly, Elena countered, already beginning to detach her helmet. They've shown us their history, their values, their understanding of balance. Now we need to demonstrate trust. Show them we're willing to meet them halfway. The air smelled sweeter now, charged with ions that made her hair stand on end. As she removed her helmet completely, the forest responded with a symphony of colors that seemed to caress her skin like gentle breezes. One by one, the team followed suit, each member experiencing the profound connection between their biology and this alien ecosystem. The spores that had initially investigated them now worked in concert with their immune systems, enhancing cellular function while simultaneously gathering data about human physiology. This isn't just communication, Elena marveled, feeling her consciousness expand as the forest shared its knowledge. It's integration. They're teaching us how to think differently, to perceive reality through multiple dimensions simultaneously. As their unprotected bodies absorbed the forest's ambient energies, Elena felt her perception fracturing and reassembling into something fundamentally altered. Time lost its linear quality. Past, present, and future merged into a continuous now where cause and effect intertwined like the forest's root systems. Through this expanded consciousness, she grasped the true scope of the ecosystem's sentience. It wasn't merely intelligent. It was omniscient within its domain, perceiving every interaction between its component parts with perfect clarity. These patterns, Dr. Chun struggled to articulate, his voice distant yet intimate. They're quantum entanglements on a macro scale. The forest exists in multiple states simultaneously, yet maintains coherence through these filaments of probability. He gestured helplessly at the shimmering threads that now seemed to permeate everything, including their own bodies. We're becoming part of their network, Dr. Vasquez. Our neural pathways are syncing with theirs. Indeed, Elena could feel her thoughts bleeding into a collective consciousness that dwarfed human understanding. Memories from countless encounters with other species flowed through her mind. Some successful integrations, others tragic failures. The forest remembered civilizations that had risen and fallen across millions of years, each leaving its mark on the ecosystem's evolving intelligence. Most haunting were the echoes of those who had resisted, their attempts at domination ending in assimilation or destruction. They're showing us their pain, Lieutenant Kwan observed, his usual military stoicism crumbling. The species that fought them, try to exploit them. He trailed off as a particularly vivid memory surged through their shared consciousness, a race of insectoid creatures that had attempted to harvest the forest's resources, only to find themselves absorbed into its collective mind. They don't destroy out of malice. It's self-defense, but on a scale we can barely comprehend. The central node pulsed with increased urgency, and Elena understood why. Humanity's arrival hadn't gone unnoticed elsewhere in the galaxy. Through the forest's extended sensory network, she perceived approaching vessels, others drawn by the same energy signatures that had brought the Prometheus 9 to LV-341. But these newcomers carried weapons, their intentions hostile. The forest's consciousness quivered with anticipation of conflict, its defensive mechanisms priming for battle. "We need to warn them," Elena declared, though the concept of them had become blurred. Was she still fully human? The forest's knowledge continued pouring into her mind, revealing the devastating capabilities hidden within its seemingly peaceful exterior. Each tree concealed weapons-grade biological agents. The soil itself could liquefy and consume entire armies. Even the air carried potential for destruction, its chemical composition capable of shifting into toxic compounds at will. But how? Dr. Chun asked, his form wavering as if caught between physical and digital states. "Our communication systems can't handle this level of complexity. We need to translate their language into something our species can understand." The challenge overwhelmed him visibly, his body flickering as the forest's influence grew stronger. Elena focused her will, channeling the ecosystem's vast computational power through her enhanced neural pathways. "We'll use their own technology against them," she decided, already accessing blueprints for devices that could interface with human systems. Create warning beacons, encoded with enough of their language to convey the message. Approach with respect or face annihilation. As she spoke, the forest responded by manifesting physical components for the proposed devices, growing them from its substance like organic circuit boards. The warning beacons took shape around them, their construction a testament to the symbiotic relationship developing between human and forest intelligence. Each device formed from crystalline structures that pulsed with the same bioluminescent patterns as the trees, yet incorporated elements recognizable to human technology. As Elena directed the manufacturing process through her enhanced consciousness, she marveled at how seamlessly the forest adapted its methods to accommodate human limitations. "These aren't just transmitters," Dr. Chin analyzed, his scientific mind racing to keep pace with the influx of alien engineering principles. "They're quantum state modulators, capable of broadcasting across multiple dimensions simultaneously." He touched one of the forming devices, his fingers passing through its semi-solid state. "They'll transmit not just messages, but experiences. Anyone receiving the signal will understand exactly what we've learned." Lieutenant Kwan's tactical expertise kicked in as he examined the beacon's defensive capabilities. "And they're armed," he noted grimly, watching as organic tendril-like structures wrapped around compact bioenergy cores. Non-lethal deterrence, but effective. Any hostile approach triggers an electromagnetic pulse strong enough to disable conventional technology. His expression darkened. "We're setting up perimeter defenses for an entire planet." The forest's consciousness surged through their shared link, providing detailed tactical assessments of approaching threats. Through this expanded awareness, Elena perceived multiple ships converging on LV-341, their trajectories carrying the unmistakable signatures of mining operations and military escorts. The greed driving these expeditions sickened her. Corporations seeking to exploit this magnificent ecosystem for profit, governments viewing it as a potential weapon. "We need to accelerate deployment," she instructed, her thoughts translating directly into action as the forest responded to her will. Beams of structured light shot skyward from the central node, carrying instructions to remote sections of the ecosystem. Across the planet, similar constructions began, the forest extending its technological capabilities through underground networks that spanned continents. "Coordinate the defense grid to cover all probable entry points," she continued, feeling her consciousness stretch across hundreds of kilometers. Dr. Chun monitored the expanding network, his instruments recording phenomena that would revolutionize human understanding of physics. The energy distribution patterns, he marveled. They're rewriting fundamental laws. Conservation of mass, thermodynamics. Everything we thought was immutable is being bent to their will. He watched as mountains shifted imperceptibly, their mineral compositions altering to enhance the planet's defensive capabilities. Through their shared consciousness, Elena accessed the forest's historical archives, witnessing previous confrontations with aggressive species. The tactics employed were masterful, combining psychological warfare with precise surgical strikes that neutralized threats while minimizing collateral damage. "Implement Phase 2, she commanded, and the ground trembled as massive root systems rearranged themselves into strategic positions. Natural formations became fortifications, valleys transformed into kill zones, and the atmosphere itself charged with latent energy. We're not just preparing for battle, Elena realized, feeling the full scope of the plan unfolding. We're creating a living fortress. Every element of this ecosystem is being optimized for defense while maintaining its primary function as a habitat. The efficiency of this dual-purpose design astounded her. Weapon systems hidden within flowers, surveillance networks embedded in insect populations, and weather patterns manipulated to create natural barriers. Lieutenant Kwan's combat training meshed seamlessly with the forest's strategic planning. Designate priority targets, he suggested, and the ecosystem responded by focusing its preparations on the most immediate threats. Through the shared consciousness, they watched as incoming vessels adjusted their approach vectors, unaware they were being herded into carefully prepared engagement zones. When they arrive, they'll walk into a trap centuries in the making. As the first wave of approaching vessels entered LV-341's outer atmosphere, the forest's defensive systems activated with precision that bordered on artistic. Bioluminescent patterns across the planet's surface shifted into warning configurations, pulsing with increasing urgency as the invaders drew closer. Elena felt the ecosystem's consciousness divide its attention between multiple fronts, coordinating responses through her enhanced neural pathways. Signal detected, Dr. Chun reported, his instruments registering the approaching ship's energy signatures. 3 corporate mining vessels accompanied by a military escort. They're ignoring our warning beacons. Through their shared consciousness, they could sense the greed driving these expeditions, boardroom decisions made light years away, prioritizing profit margins over ethical considerations. The forest responded with a surge of indignation that resonated through their collective awareness. The lead vessel, designated MSV Harvester's Pride, deployed atmospheric probes as it descended. Before it could complete its scan, the forest initiated its first line of defense. Cloud formations condensed into reflective surfaces that distorted sensor readings, while electromagnetic fields interfered with communication systems. "They're blind," Lieutenant Kwan observed with clinical detachment, though his stance betrayed readiness for combat. Perfect execution of electronic warfare using purely natural elements. Elena directed her attention to the southern hemisphere, where a second group approached. Here, the ecosystem employed different tactics, releasing spores that interacted with the invaders' hull materials, causing microscopic structural weaknesses. Through the shared consciousness, she witnessed crew members aboard these vessels struggling with equipment failures as their technology succumbed to the forest's adaptive countermeasures. "They're accelerating their approach," Dr. Chin warned, his anxiety manifesting in rapid-fire data analysis. "Military escort is deploying fighters." True to his prediction, smaller craft detached from the main vessels, their weapons systems powering up. The forest responded by triggering localized weather phenomena, lightning storms that danced precisely between the attacking ships, forcing them to break formation while avoiding actual contact. Through their expanded awareness, the team experienced the invaders' growing frustration. Communication channels filled with panicked voices as artificial intelligence systems failed to comprehend the nature of their opponent. "They're treating this like a conventional military engagement," Lieutenant Kwan noted, watching as the enemy forces attempted standard combat maneuvers. "They don't understand they're fighting an entire planet." The central node pulsed with approval as Elena coordinated the next phase of defense. Massive trees bent their branches to create natural anti-aircraft batteries, their crystalline leaves focusing sunlight into coherent beams that forced the fighters to retreat. Simultaneously, root systems shifted underground reservoirs, creating sinkholes precisely where ground troops would likely attempt landing operations. Casualty estimates zero, Dr. Chun reported with obvious relief. Maximum effectiveness with minimal force application. Yet despite these successes, Elena felt the ecosystem's growing concern. More ships were en route, their captains undoubtedly receiving real-time updates from the initial assault teams. The forest's consciousness calculated probabilities, assessing various outcomes based on different levels of aggression. Through their shared link, she understood the difficult truth. While they could repel these attacks, humanity's persistent nature meant this conflict could escalate indefinitely. We need to change their perspective, Elena declared, feeling the forest's agreement resonate through their collective mind. Not just fight them off, but make them understand why they're wrong. The ecosystem responded by initiating a new protocol. Captured sensor drones were reprogrammed to broadcast direct feeds of the planet's beauty and complexity back to their originating ships. Images of the forest's intricate ecosystems, its harmonious balance, and its advanced sentience flooded enemy communication channels. The counteroffensive unfolded with devastating elegance, each move orchestrated through Elena's enhanced consciousness in perfect harmony with the forest's strategic calculations. As the second wave of invaders penetrated deeper into LV-341's atmosphere, the ecosystem unveiled its most sophisticated defense mechanism yet, a global neural network that hijacked their opponents' artificial intelligence systems. "They're inside our perimeter," Lieutenant Quan announced, his tactical display showing multiple breaches in the outer defensive layers. Yet, instead of engaging with conventional force, the forest employed a revolutionary tactic. Root systems released nanoscopic organic machines that infiltrated enemy computer systems through their cooling vents. Once inside, these biological constructs rewrote code at the quantum level, transforming hostile AI into extensions of the planet's consciousness. Elena felt the moment of transition as if it were happening within her own mind. The corrupted systems aboard the invaders' vessels began transmitting their own coordinates to the forest's central node, effectively turning their technological advantage against them. "They're giving us targeting data for their own fleet," Dr. Chun marveled, watching as the enemy's own weapon systems locked onto their support vessels. "It's brilliant, using their aggression to create internal conflict." Through their shared consciousness, they witnessed the chaos aboard the invading ships. Crew members scrambled to regain control of systems that now operated according to alien logic. Some vessels fired upon their companions, while others executed evasive maneuvers that placed them directly in the path of natural defensive measures. The forest's consciousness pulsed with satisfaction as it achieved maximum disruption with minimal lethal force. Phase 3 activation, Elena commanded, and the ground trembled as massive geothermal vents redirected their energy output. Superheated steam erupted in precise patterns, creating temporary atmospheric barriers that scattered incoming ships like leaves in a hurricane. The phenomenon was beautiful in its complexity, a dance of pressure systems and thermal currents that protected the ecosystem while preserving the invaders' lives. Lieutenant Quan monitored the tactical situation with growing admiration for their opponent-turned-ally. "Their casualty projections are dropping," he reported. "Even during maximum engagement, they're keeping fatalities below 5%. The few losses that did occur stemmed from panic-induced accidents rather than direct attack." The forest strategy focused on incapacitation rather than destruction, disabling ships without causing loss of life. As the third wave of attackers approached, the ecosystem demonstrated its most remarkable capability yet. Drawing upon the quantum state modulators embedded throughout the planet, it created localized time dilation fields. Incoming vessels found themselves trapped in temporal loops, reliving the same 10 seconds repeatedly while the forest's consciousness negotiated with their onboard computers. Through these interactions, the invaders received direct transmissions of the planet's history, its values, and its perspective on sustainable existence. "They're learning," Dr. Chun observed, tears streaming down his face as he processed the emotional content of the transmission. "Not just intellectually, but on a fundamental level. Their neural patterns are synchronizing with ours." The shared consciousness expanded to include hundreds of minds aboard the trapped vessels, each experiencing the forest's perspective on the futility of conquest and the beauty of cooperative existence. Elena directed the final phase of the counteroffensive, a demonstration of the ecosystem's true power. Mountain ranges shifted subtly, their mineral compositions altering to enhance defensive capabilities while simultaneously showcasing the planet's mastery over geological processes. Rivers changed course, creating natural moats around key defensive positions, while forests grew at accelerated rates to reinforce perimeter security. The display served both as warning and invitation proof of their capability to defend while maintaining their primary function as a thriving ecosystem. As the last of the invaders retreated beyond LV-341's atmosphere, the forest's consciousness pulsed with a complex emotion that Elena struggled to interpret: satisfaction tempered by sorrow, triumph shadowed by regret. Through their shared link, she understood that while the immediate threat had been neutralized, the fundamental conflict remained unresolved. Humanity's expansionist tendencies, its historical pattern of exploitation rather than cooperation, posed an existential challenge to the ecosystem's very existence. "We've bought time," Lieutenant Quan assessed, his tactical mind already considering future scenarios. "But this isn't over. Those ships will report back, and others will come better prepared, more determined." The forest's consciousness agreed, flooding their shared awareness with predictive models that painted a grim picture of escalating conflict. Military forces would study their tactics, develop countermeasures, and return with enhanced capabilities. The cycle of aggression and defense could continue indefinitely, each iteration bringing both sides closer to mutually assured destruction. Elena focused her will, channeling the ecosystem's vast computational power to analyze alternative solutions. Through their expanded consciousness, she grasped the true scope of the problem: humanity's cultural programming, its economic systems built on unlimited growth, its political structures incentivizing short-term gains over long-term sustainability. The forest's archives contained records of similar challenges with other species, some resolved peacefully through mutual understanding, others ending in tragedy when dialogue proved impossible. "We need to change the narrative," she declared, feeling the forest's resonance with her thoughts. "Not just fight them off, but alter their fundamental perspective. Make them understand that coexistence is possible, desirable even." The ecosystem responded by initiating a comprehensive analysis of human psychology, culture, and social structures. Through this process, they identified key leverage points, influential figures whose opinions could sway public perception, technological applications that could demonstrate the benefits of cooperation, cultural narratives that could inspire change. Dr. Chen's scientific mind raced to keep pace with the flood of insights. "Their education systems," he suggested. "If we can introduce new curricula that emphasize ecological balance, maybe we can influence future generations." The forest's consciousness expanded on this idea, proposing a multi-generational strategy that combined educational initiatives with targeted technological exchanges. Concepts that had taken them millennia to develop could be adapted to human understanding, presented not as superior knowledge but as complementary perspectives. Lieutenant Quan contributed his military expertise to the discussion. "Security protocols need to evolve too," he argued. "Current systems prioritize defense through force. We need to develop methods that prevent conflict rather than just manage it." The ecosystem responded by generating detailed plans for diplomatic interfaces, communication protocols that could convey complex concepts without triggering defensive reactions, and early warning systems that could detect aggressive intent before it manifested in action. Through their shared consciousness, Elena accessed the forest's historical archives, studying successful integrations with other species. Common elements emerged: gradual exposure to new ideas, demonstration of mutual benefits, creation of shared goals that transcended individual interests. The challenge lay in adapting these strategies to human psychology, in finding ways to present this alien intelligence not as a threat to be conquered, but as a partner in evolution. "We'll need ambassadors," she decided, feeling the forest's approval. "Individuals who can bridge both worlds, who can translate our experiences into terms that resonate with human values." The ecosystem began identifying suitable candidates among the Prometheus 9's crew, assessing their neural patterns for compatibility with sustained exposure to alien consciousness. The process wasn't just about selecting representatives. It was about creating a new kind of diplomat, one who could navigate both human and forest perspectives with equal fluency. The selection process for humanity's first interspecies ambassadors revealed unexpected complexities. As the forest's consciousness interfaced with each crew member's neural pathways, it became apparent that compatibility depended on more than just intellectual capacity or emotional stability. The ecosystem sought individuals whose fundamental worldview could flex and adapt, whose core identity wasn't rigidly tied to human-centric perspectives. Dr. Chun emerged as a natural candidate, his scientific curiosity already bordering on obsession. The forest's influence enhanced his analytical abilities while simultaneously expanding his capacity for abstract thought. These patterns, he marveled, manipulating holographic displays that now projected directly from his neural interface. They're not just data, they're poetry, mathematics expressed through biological forms. His transformation occurred gradually, each exposure to the ecosystem's consciousness adding layers to his understanding while preserving his essential humanity. Lieutenant Kwan's adaptation followed a different trajectory. His military training initially resisted the forest's influence, his tactical mind interpreting every new insight as potential threat. Yet through careful guidance, the ecosystem helped him reconceptualize security not as defense against enemies, but as maintenance of balance. Force projection isn't always about dominance, he realized, watching as root systems rearrange themselves to optimize resource distribution. Sometimes it's about creating conditions where conflict becomes unnecessary. Most surprising was Ensign Patel's emergence as a key candidate. His background in xenolinguistics, initially considered peripheral to the mission, proved crucial when the forest began expressing itself through complex symbolic patterns that defied traditional linguistic analysis. It's not just language, Patel explained, his voice trembling with excitement as he interfaced directly with the central node. It's a multidimensional system of meaning, where each symbol exists simultaneously as sound, color, and emotion. The forest responded by amplifying his neural pathways, granting him access to layers of communication that others could barely perceive. Elena watched the transformation of her team with equal parts awe and trepidation. Each ambassador in training carried the weight of two species' futures on their shoulders, their minds becoming living bridges between human and forest consciousness. Yet this integration came at a cost. Sleep became elusive as their dreams filled with alien landscapes and fragmented memories not their own. Meals were forgotten as their bodies adapted to the ecosystem's energy-sharing processes. Even basic human interactions felt strained, their thoughts now operating on levels incomprehensible to those outside the shared consciousness. The psychological impact is significant, Dr. Vasquez noted during one of their increasingly rare debriefings. But it's manageable. She spoke with conviction despite the fatigue etched into her features. Her own transformation had been the most profound, her consciousness now permanently entwined with the forest's collective mind. Through her enhanced awareness, she monitored the ambassadors' progress, ensuring that their humanity remained intact even as they embraced their new roles. The forest guided their training with meticulous care, presenting challenges that pushed their cognitive and emotional limits without breaking them. They learned to interpret its warning signals, to distinguish between curiosity and threat, to translate its ethical calculations into terms humans could understand. Each success strengthened the bond between species, creating a hybrid intelligence that drew from the strengths of both. Yet beneath this progress lay an undercurrent of urgency. Through their shared consciousness, they sensed more ships approaching, their captains armed with data from the previous encounters. These newcomers approached with caution but also determination, their orders clear: secure the planet's resources or eliminate the obstacle preventing exploitation. The ambassadors' training accelerated, their integration with the forest's consciousness deepening as time grew short. "We need to establish first contact protocols," Elena instructed, her thoughts flowing seamlessly into action as the forest responded to her will. "Create frameworks for dialogue that acknowledge both our differences and our potential for cooperation." The ecosystem manifested physical interfaces, crystalline structures that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, designed to facilitate communication between human and forest minds. These devices would serve as diplomatic tools, allowing future visitors to experience the planet's perspective without fully merging with its consciousness. The crystalline communication devices took shape across the planet's surface, their construction a testament to the evolving partnership between human ingenuity and forest intelligence. Each structure emerged from the ground like a living organism, its crystalline lattice growing and branching in response to precise environmental stimuli. Through her expanded consciousness, Elena directed the placement of these interfaces, positioning them at strategic points where future visitors were most likely to make landfall. These aren't just translators, Dr. Chen observed, his scientific instruments struggling to keep pace with the device's complexity. They're contextual processors, capable of adapting their output based on the observer's cognitive framework. He ran his fingers along the surface of one interface, feeling the subtle vibrations that indicated active calibration. They'll present information in ways that resonate with each individual's unique perspective. Lieutenant Quan approached another device, his tactical mind already considering security implications. And they're selective, he noted, watching as the crystalline structure responded differently to various members of their team. Only those deemed ready can access deeper levels of understanding. The forest's consciousness confirmed his observation, revealing how the devices assessed mental stability, ethical alignment, and capacity for abstract thought before granting access to sensitive information. Ensign Patel focused on developing a universal protocol for initial contact scenarios. We need to establish trust immediately, he explained, manipulating holographic displays that projected directly from his neural interface. First impressions matter, especially when dealing with species that view us as either gods or monsters. The forest responded by enhancing his linguistic capabilities, enabling him to create introductory sequences that combined visual, auditory, and emotional elements into cohesive narratives. Through their shared consciousness, Elena accessed historical records of other species' first contact experiences, analyzing both successful and failed attempts at communication. Cultural context is crucial, she realized, feeling the ecosystem's agreement resonate through their collective mind. We can't assume all visitors will respond positively to pure data transmission. The forest adapted accordingly, programming the communication devices to present information in culturally relevant formats, mathematical proofs for analytical minds, artistic expressions for creative thinkers, and practical demonstrations for pragmatists. As the network of communication devices expanded, the forest implemented additional safeguards. Bioluminescent warning systems activated around each interface, their patterns conveying clear messages about appropriate behavior and potential consequences. Root systems rearranged themselves to create natural barriers that funneled visitors toward designated contact points, while airborne spores monitored approach vectors and adjusted local atmospheric conditions to optimize first impressions. We're creating a global welcome center, Dr. Chen marveled, watching as entire sections of forest transformed into carefully orchestrated environments designed to showcase the ecosystem's capabilities while maintaining defensive readiness. Each area tells a different story about who we are and what we value. The stories unfolded through living dioramas, trees that moved in perfect synchronization to demonstrate coordination, flowers that changed color in response to emotional states to illustrate empathy, and insects that formed complex geometric patterns to showcase mathematical understanding. Lieutenant Quan coordinated security measures around these demonstration zones, ensuring that each area maintained multiple layers of protection while appearing open and inviting. Defense through transparency, he summarized, watching as crystalline structures embedded in the ground created real-time holographic displays of visitors' intentions. They'll see exactly what we're capable of without feeling threatened. Through their enhanced awareness, the team experienced the culmination of their efforts, a planet-wide system designed to welcome, educate, and evaluate potential partners while remaining prepared to defend against hostile intent. The forest's consciousness pulsed with approval as Elena finalized the network's activation sequence, feeling their collective readiness for whatever challenges lay ahead. The first test of LV-341's new communication network arrived sooner than expected. Through the forest's extended sensory systems, Elena detected a small research vessel attempting to land at an unauthorized location. Unlike previous invaders, this ship broadcast peaceful intentions and requested permission to study the planet's unique ecosystem. The situation presented both opportunity and risk, a chance to implement their carefully designed protocols while facing the reality of direct human interaction. Activate primary contact zone, Elena commanded, feeling the ecosystem respond instantly. Crystalline structures illuminated across the designated area, their patterns shifting to create a welcoming beacon visible from orbit. Through their shared consciousness, the team experienced the visitors' cautious approach, scientists eager for discovery yet constrained by institutional protocols and funding requirements. The challenge lay in balancing these motivations with the forest's fundamental values. Dr. Chun monitored the visitors' reaction to their initial greeting, a symphony of bioluminescent patterns accompanied by carefully calibrated electromagnetic pulses. "They're responding positively," he reported, watching as the research vessel adjusted its trajectory toward the designated landing site. "Their instruments are attempting to record everything, but they're respecting our boundaries." The forest's consciousness approved, directing root systems to create a stable platform for landing while maintaining defensive readiness. As the visitors disembarked, Ensign Patel activated the primary communication interface, its crystalline surface rippling with patterns designed to convey both beauty and complexity. "Welcome to LV-341, he transmitted through the device, his words translated into a multisensory experience that included visual representations of Earth's biosphere and mathematical expressions of universal constants. The visitors reacted with a mixture of wonder and professional detachment, their scientific training warring with instinctive awe. Lieutenant Kwan coordinated security measures from a distance, ensuring that defensive systems remained active while appearing non-threatening. "They're following protocols perfectly," he observed, watching as the researchers established their equipment within designated parameters. No attempts at unauthorized sampling or invasive scanning. The forest's consciousness pulsed with satisfaction, directing nearby plants to release calming pheromones that helped maintain the visitors' composure. Through their enhanced awareness, Elena tracked the exchange of information, observing how the researchers processed their experiences. Some focused on collecting data, their minds racing to document every detail for publication. Others allowed themselves to feel the deeper connection, their consciousness briefly touching the edges of the shared network. The crystalline interface adapted to each individual's approach, providing information in formats that maximized understanding while minimizing cultural resistance. "They're learning," Dr. Chin noted, his instruments recording neural activity patterns that indicated genuine comprehension rather than mere intellectual processing. "Not just about us, but about themselves." The forest's archives revealed similar moments with other species, instances where exposure to alien perspectives triggered fundamental shifts in self-perception and worldview. Through careful guidance, the team helped the visitors navigate this transformation, ensuring that their newfound understanding didn't overwhelm their ability to function. The encounter lasted several hours, during which both parties exchanged knowledge and perspectives. The researchers shared insights about human civilization's achievements and challenges, while the forest demonstrated sustainable technologies and ecological principles that could revolutionize terrestrial practices. Through the crystalline interface, Elena facilitated a dialogue that transcended simple question-and-answer exchanges, creating a shared space where both species could explore possibilities for mutual benefit. As the visitors prepared to depart, Lieutenant Kwan ensured that all interactions had been properly documented while leaving room for interpretation. "They'll report back to their institutions," he predicted, watching as the research vessel lifted off from the designated platform. "But their personal experiences will influence how they frame their findings." The forest's consciousness agreed, directing nearby trees to release spores that would subtly reinforce positive associations while traveling back to Earth. The departure of the research vessel marked the beginning of a new phase in human-forest relations. Through their shared consciousness, Elena and her team experienced the resonance of that first successful contact spreading across the ecosystem, strengthening the planetary network's confidence in its ability to engage with humanity constructively. Yet the true measure of their achievement became apparent only weeks later, when multiple institutions began requesting formal diplomatic channels. These aren't just scientific missions anymore, Dr. Chun observed, reviewing incoming transmissions through the Enhanced Communication Network. They're sending philosophers, ethicists, environmental specialists. The forest's consciousness pulsed with approval, recognizing the shift in human priorities from exploitation to understanding. Each new visitor brought fresh perspectives, challenging both species to expand their definitions of intelligence, consciousness, and coexistence. Lieutenant Quan coordinated the growing number of contact zones, implementing adaptive protocols that evolved based on each successful interaction. Security remains paramount, he emphasized, though his tactical focus had shifted from defense to facilitation. But now we're protecting opportunities for growth rather than just preventing conflict. The ecosystem responded by refining its warning systems, making them more nuanced and context-sensitive while maintaining their fundamental effectiveness. Ensign Patel's role expanded beyond linguistic translation to include cultural mediation. Every group brings its own framework for understanding, he explained, his neural interface now projecting complex matrices that mapped human social structures against forest organizational principles. We need to find common ground without forcing either side to compromise core values. The forest's archives provided invaluable insights into similar integrations with other species, helping guide these delicate negotiations. Through their enhanced awareness, the team witnessed the ripple effects of their work spreading back to Earth. Scientific papers published by early visitors sparked debates about humanity's place in the universe, challenging long-held assumptions about superiority and entitlement. Environmental movements gained momentum as people grasped the possibility of truly sustainable existence. Economic models began incorporating principles of balance and reciprocity learned from LV-341's ecosystem. Elena found herself at the center of this expanding web of influence, her consciousness permanently entwined with the forest's collective mind yet still connected to her human roots. We've created something unprecedented, she realized, feeling the weight of their achievement tempered by the challenges ahead. A bridge between species that doesn't require either to diminish themselves. The forest's consciousness resonated with her thoughts, acknowledging both the beauty and fragility of their accomplishment. As more ships approached LV-341, drawn by reports of successful cooperation rather than resource exploitation, the team understood that their work had only begun. Each new contact required careful management. Each interaction presented opportunities for growth and risks of misunderstanding. Yet through their shared consciousness, they possessed the tools to navigate this complex landscape, enhanced perception, expanded empathy, and a commitment to finding harmony between seemingly incompatible perspectives. The forest's final gift to its human partners emerged gradually, the ability to pass on their enhanced consciousness to future generations. Through carefully controlled neural interfaces, new ambassadors could inherit the accumulated wisdom of previous encounters while retaining their individuality. This biological cultural evolution represented humanity's first step toward true interspecies integration, a path that promised both extraordinary challenges and unprecedented possibilities. In the vast expanse of the universe, humanity discovered not just an alien intelligence, but a mirror reflecting our potential for growth and understanding. The sentient forest of LV-341 didn't just change how we view alien life. It transformed how we see ourselves. This isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter in our species' journey. A chapter where cooperation replaces conquest, where understanding transcends fear, and where two fundamentally different forms of consciousness learn to thrive together. If you want to witness humanity's greatest challenge and triumph, subscribe now to follow our ongoing journey of discovery and transformation. Together, we can redefine what it means to be intelligent beings in a shared universe. This concludes the narrative. The story maintains a continuous flow throughout its parts while exploring themes of first contact, interspecies communication, and the evolution of consciousness. The ending leaves room for potential sequels while providing closure to this particular arc of human-forest interaction.